The room was designed to impress. Not loudly, not in a way that demanded attention, but in that controlled, expensive way where everything looked effortless because every detail had been decided long before anyone arrived. Crystal glasses aligned perfectly, soft lighting reflecting off polished surfaces, conversations moving in low, confident tones, people speaking as if they had never needed to raise their voices to be heard. It was my daughter's engagement dinner, and everything about it belonged to his world. Her fiancé stood near the center of the room, shaking hands, smiling, moving easily through conversations that felt more like negotiations than celebrations. And his father was watching everything, not participating, assessing. That was the first thing I noticed about him. He didn't blend into the room. He controlled it, even when he wasn't speaking, even when he was still. People adjusted around him. Not because they were told to, because they understood. Power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just sits. I stayed near the edge of the room, not hidden, not excluded, just positioned, because I didn't need to be seen to understand what was happening. My daughter found me first. "You came," she said softly, relief and tension mixing in her voice in a way she tried to hide. "Of course," I replied. She nodded, but her eyes shifted slightly toward him, toward the man standing across the room, watching. "I'll come back," she said quickly, already being pulled into another conversation before I could respond. That was fine, because this wasn't about her. Not yet. The evening moved forward with the kind of precision that only exists in rooms where everyone believes they belong. Until something interrupts that belief. It happened slowly, the way most important things do. He stood up.
No announcement.
No signal. Just movement. And that was enough. Because the room followed him. Conversation stopped. Attention shifted. Silence formed. Not forced, not requested, but understood. "I think it's time we address something," he said. His voice wasn't loud.
It didn't need to be.
Every word landed exactly where it was meant to. My daughter stiffened slightly. Her fiancé didn't move. I stayed exactly where I was. Because moments like this are rarely accidental. "We're welcoming new people into our family," he continued, his tone measured, controlled. "And with that comes responsibility." A few people nodded.
Of course they did.
Because statements like that sound important even when they don't say anything specific. "Standards matter," he added. There it was, the direction. Not clear yet, but close. And so does alignment. His eyes moved through the room, slowly, deliberately, until they stopped.
On me.
Not by accident. Never by accident. And sometimes, he said, a slight smile forming. Polite, controlled, almost respectful, but not quite. "We have to make sure that the people around us reflect the level we've built." The room didn't move, didn't react, because now they understood. Not fully, but enough. "I mean no disrespect," he added. Of course he did. People always say that right before they do exactly that. But we can't ignore reality. Another pause. Longer. Because now, the moment had fully formed. "Some backgrounds," he said, "simply don't belong in certain spaces." Silence. Real this time. Because now, it was clear. Not implied. Not softened. Placed. And then, he looked directly at me. "You," he said. One word. Enough. "I understand you're her father," he continued, gesturing slightly toward my daughter. "And that's admirable." Admirable. Another word, carefully chosen, designed to sound respectful, while doing the opposite. "But this isn't just a family matter," he added. "This is a legacy." There it was again. Legacy. Always about what comes next, never about what's real. And we can't allow that legacy to be diluted. A few people shifted. Some looked away. Some didn't. My daughter's hands tightened slightly at her sides, but she didn't speak. No one did, because silence protects power. You're a commoner, he said finally.
No hesitation. No disguise.
Just clear. The word didn't echo. It didn't need to. It settled.
Permanent.
Unavoidable. And I don't want that influencing what we've built. The room held its breath, because now there was no way to misunderstand it. No softer version.
No interpretation.
Just truth. His version of it. And to avoid complications, he added, reaching into his jacket, pulling out a folded check with the same calm precision he had used for every word before it. I'm willing to make this easy. He held it out, not to the room.
To me.
50,000, he said, to step back. Another pause, because now the moment wasn't just about words. It was about action. Disappear from this situation, he added, quietly. Silence. Complete. Because now everyone was watching. Not him. Not the room.
Me.
Waiting. For reaction. For resistance. For something that would confirm everything he had just said. I looked at the check. Then at him. Then back at nothing in particular. And I didn't react. I didn't take the check. That was the first thing that unsettled him. Not refusal. Not anger. Just absence of reaction. Because people like him understand resistance. They expect it. They prepare for it. What they don't understand is silence. I looked at the check for a second longer, then gently pushed it back toward him. No force. No statement. Just returned. A small movement. But enough. Because now, the moment had shifted. You don't have to make this difficult, he said, his tone still calm, but something underneath it had changed. Slightly sharper. Slightly less certain. I'm not, I replied. That was all.
No explanation. No argument.
Just clarity. Another pause. Because now, he was waiting for something that wasn't coming. You should understand your position, he added. I almost smiled, because that was the part he still believed. That there was a position. That he defined it. That I existed within it. I do, I said. And I meant it, because my position had nothing to do with that room. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. Simple. Ordinary. The kind of object no one in that room would ever associate with authority. Because real power, in their world, came from presence. From visibility. From standing at the center. Not from something that fit in your hand. What are you doing? He asked. For the first time, there was a hint of uncertainty. Not visible to everyone, but enough. Correcting something? I said. I unlocked the screen. Opened a file. Not rushed. Not dramatic. Just precise. Because everything that mattered had already been prepared. The structure was already in place. The decisions had already been made. This was just execution. You're not in a position to correct anything, he said. I didn't look up, because his position was already changing. I think you'll find that I am, I replied. And then I pressed one button. That was it. No speech.
No explanation. No announcement.
Just action. The room didn't react immediately. Of course it didn't, because nothing visible had changed. But something had. Completely. 2 seconds. 5 seconds. 10. Then his phone vibrated. A small sound. Barely noticeable. Except in silence. Everything is. He glanced down. Almost casually at first. Then, again. Longer. His expression didn't change immediately. That's how you know it's real. Because real disruption doesn't show up all at once. It builds. Layer by layer. Message by message. Notification by notification. What is this? He said quietly. Not to me. To himself. Another vibration. Then another. Because systems don't send one message when something collapses. They send everything at once. He straightened slightly, his posture adjusting in a way that didn't belong to confidence anymore. It belonged to something else, something closer to recognition. "That's not possible," he said. "Now to me." I looked at him.
Calm.
"Steady." "It is," I replied. Another pause. But this one was different, because now the room felt it, not understood it, felt it. "What did you do?" he asked. The question came faster this time, sharper, because control was slipping. "I executed a margin call," I said.
No emotion. No emphasis.
Just fact. Silence.
Heavy. Real.
Because even if they didn't fully understand what that meant, they understood the effect. "And your position?" I added. Another vibration. His hand tightened slightly around the phone. "Review it," I said. He didn't want to. That was clear. But he did, because at that point, not knowing was worse. His face changed. Not slowly, not subtly.
Completely. Color drained.
Expression flattened. A certainty.
Gone.
Because now, there was no version of this that worked for him. "You don't have that authority," he said. But it didn't sound like belief. It sounded like hope.
Idoi replied.
"How?" he asked. I didn't explain everything. I didn't need to. "While you were building your image," I said calmly, "I was building your structure." Another pause. Because now, the words were connecting. "The shares you leveraged," I continued, "weren't as private as you thought." His grip tightened. Because now, he understood. Not everything, but enough. "And the majority?" he asked. I held his gaze. "Mine," I said. One word. Final. The room didn't move, didn't react, because it didn't need to. Everything had already changed. "You called me a commoner," I added. Not loud, not aggressive, just clear. Another pause. Because now, he remembered. "And you were right." Silence. Because he didn't understand. Not yet. "I don't belong in your world," I finished. Another pause. Longer. Because now,
He did.
I built it. Nothing moved after that. Nothing needed to. Because everything had already shifted. He thought he could define who belonged, who had value, who deserved to stand in that room. But what he didn't realize was simple. You can't remove someone from your world when everything in it already belongs to them.